Wednesday evening, and you're welcome to our live session for today. It's another day with your fertility specialist. Thank you for taking our time to be here with us. We always appreciate your support. Thank you. We see your support. We appreciate it. So it is another Wednesday. Please press this like button, subscribe, share with your people, call everybody around, and tell them that it's another beautiful session today. So today we have a very interesting topic here, and I am your host, Naret Sati. So we have this interesting topic, gender balancing. And here with me is an exceptional person here in the house, in the person of Dr. Kenneth Eguda. You're welcome here today, sir. It's always a flex to have you on set.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's very good to see you.
And I hope we do justice to whatever the world understand by gender balancing.
All right. Yes, indeed. So we've had this meet for a very long time about sex selection, where you would have to choose a particular way to have sex, a position for sex, and then it gives you a particular gender, or then you have to have sex on particular months for selecting a particular gender. So I would want to ask today, what do you think? Do you think really gender selection is something that really matters in the society today?
Yeah, I think it really matters.
Okay.
We've heard about all the position for sex that will result to males or females, and some other people even marketed some particular kind of software to some fertility clinics
Oh.
that states that if you conceive in certain months, in certain days of certain months, it will be a specific kind of gender. We've taken looks at all of those things, and there is no consistency, and no we can't validate it. They're just the chance and probability stuff, and they are not necessarily very reliable or dependable. But gender selection on its own, it's very important in every aspect of the word importance, and it's important in every region of the world. We may deny it, we may we may downplay it, we may not accept it for political reasons or for social reasons or for reasons of civilization, but it still doesn't change anything. It is important for several reasons. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So initially, we're always doing the trial and error.
Oh,
Whatever comes
sure.
our way, we
We
just
take
go with
it.
it. No,
Exactly.
okay. So we do have a choice now to pick whichever gender we want for our babies then.
Yeah, looking at what I've seen, I mean, from the practice of assisted reproduction technology and from the multitude and population of the world that I see, on daily basis, um, I would say it's very important, and I see that people desire what they desire, and you can't take it away from it. We may not talk about it on the international level, but we can't also deny it. The requests are coming on daily basis everywhere in the world, you know, and no policies in the world would actually stop it. People will have to do what they think they have to do in any region of the world where they think they have to do it. So it's actually very important, and we have to consider it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with your years of expertise, I would like to ask, why do you think people do sex selection? What are some of the reasons you think they opt for sex selection?
Before we get to this point, my early days or early years in the practice of assisted reproduction technology, it makes no sense to me to see somebody coming to request for a particular gender,
Mm,
you know, and that may have been because of my religious orientation,
okay.
my cultural orientation, and because of my naivety,
Mm,
and lack of exposure in life. But I've grown over the years, and by the way, this is about my 17th to 18th year
oh, wow.
practicing assisted reproduction technology.
Wow. That's a
So
lot.
at least that's some bundle of experience.
Wow, it
I
is.
mean, even if you look at it from the social perspective, talking with people
Mm,
for 18 years
mm,
about what they want, then I think at this point, anything I have to say needs to be listened to by whoever cares, you know. So whenever they come to make these requests, and then I was so young, working under a boss, it looked at it looked to me as if these guys are just mundane kind of people, people who don't know what they really want. But I profile these people daily, and these are guys who have been exposed in life, well traveled, more civilized, more educated,
Mm,
beyond and above me, and are
mm,
requesting for something. So who am I to disregard this request in the first place?
yeah.
They know more, they have more, they've seen more, and I'm just beginning life, you know.
Mm,
And then I decide to drop my guards, you know, the cultural orientation, religious orientation, and everything, and
mm,
try to look at the request that these guys are making or these women are making,
mm,
so it could make sense to me. And I realize that there's a lot of sense in it. In the first place, some people have total female, I mean females, all I mean in the family, and there is no male.
mm,
You
yeah.
know, in the first place, a family having only one particular sex
Mm,
of children, it would may have some problems with social development when you
mm,
get to interaction of males and females in the society, because they interact with only females at home. When you have a younger brother or a big brother, whatever exposure you think, you would be able to understand how males behave or how females behave, and that can impact on your social
mm,
attitude or attribute or social relationship outside, you know. That's just the gender balancing. Every parent wants to have them.
mm,
Now you have a some men are traditional
mm,
or political,
yeah.
and then based on what we know about the world, yeah, you know, the male gender seems to be the more political ones, the ones that are more recognized even in monarchy and all of that. And
Mm,
then for traditional leadership, for instance, a father who is a king wants to have a son
mm.
who will be the heir to the
Succeed.
kingdom,
Yeah.
succeed, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not to say women haven't succeeded, but
Mm.
the proportion is
It's quite
lower
low. Yeah, it's
compared
low.
to males, you
Mm,
know. And then a lot of other men are
mm,
for business reasons.
mm,
You have empires, you know, I mean empires of business,
mm.
and you're doing very well in business, and for some weird reasons they thought or feel that the ladies may not be able to manage because of instability that's associated with the female gender. I mean, I'm saying this with all due respect, you know.
Yeah.
So I have seen one who told me that, hey Ken, I have so much money
Mm.
and I need male children. I don't just
Oh.
need one, because one male child can't handle my wealth. I say, come
Oh,
on now,
wow.
we're talking. And this is real life in my
Wow.
consultation,
Wow.
you know.
Mm,
So that is very important to him based on the region of the world he's coming from,
mm,
you know, and the culture, you know, the religion and the language. He
mm,
needs what he needs.
mm,
Maybe he sees that his daughters are going to get married,
mm.
and God
Yeah.
knows where they are going to end up. They may
Actually.
get married in
Mm,
Nigeria and end up in United States. So what
mm,
happened to your estate?
mm.
You understand?
That's
So
true.
he feel, so that's a traditional thinking.
Mm.
Those who are governors want to have male kids to take over their political
Ambitions and
ambitions and
yeah,
continue the family tradition.
yeah.
You know, so those are some of the reasons. But then you also have gender balancing for or sex. Let me use the word sex
Sex
selection
selection.
for very important medical reasons.
Mm,
There are some disease conditions, for instance,
mm,
that affect males and could be very
mm,
devastating
mm,
once it expresses itself.
mm,
So you don't want to have a gender that have that kind of disease condition that may not survive.
mm.
So you may opt for a safer gender,
Oh,
a
yeah.
safer sex of a child.
Mm,
Some disease condition affect just females, And those disease conditions may be very drastic or devastating or deadly, with very low survival potential. So you may want to opt for medical reasons, a gender that has a potential of surviving. You know, so these are some reasons why people would want to have some gender selection. You know, yes, and the world always paints it differently. For instance, you see when you look at the history of China and with the one child policy. And I talk about political reasons why people choose one gender over the other. You have one child policy, and then you only permitted, by the law to have a child, just one child. A lot of people decided what gender they wanted, and most people went for the male gender. And then some who gave birth to females, for instance, just like Moses in the Bible was sent on exile. Was it exile? I don't think I'm not sure what I'm saying now. He was hidden. Sorry, he
Yeah, he
was
was
hidden.
hidden.
He was hidden. Sorry
Uh,
about that. He was hidden,
mm,
because they're going to kill the male gender,
mm.
So they hid the females. And some of them have grown up internationally and can't come back to the countries because they are not documented as
Oh,
Chinese kids,
oh.
you know. So, and then you have a lot of termination of pregnancy that affect females.
Mm,
People are always selecting. These are bad things that happen in the world anyways. Termination of pregnancy is nothing to be celebrated. Exiling a female or hiding a
mm.
female child because of a government policy is not something to be celebrated, but this happened.
Mm.
When I was in India, for instance, I stayed in India for a very long time.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in my
Mm,
early days in the medical practice.
mm,
you know in our ultrasound scanning rooms, for instance, you see a big, uh, what do you call it now, circular
mm.
pasted on the wall. You do not disclose the gender of any baby.
Oh, wow.
Yes. If you disclose the gender of any baby, you have a jail term, or then I remember 75,000 rupees
Wow.
is going to
For
be the
disclosing a
penalty.
gender.
Yes.
Wow.
The reason is this: they also have birth control policies.
Oh.
And when you find out it's a gender you don't want, and you don't have so many times, opportunities to give birth to so many children,
Mm,
you want to terminate it if that's not what you want.
mm.
So a good number of them were going for males.
Oh,
A good number of them were going for males.
wow.
And so you see, people want what they want.
Mm,
No matter the government policies, they still do
mm.
what they want to do,
Exactly.
whether openly or secretly. So this gender balancing thing or sex selection has actually been a very important issue, in the front burner of reproduction, and we cannot deny it.
Mm,
Most parents prefer certain gender. And in my own little research as a Christian, God himself, has, well, that's what the Bible
um,
documented, you know,
okay.
when important kids are going to be born, for instance.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the way I
Mm,
understand it. You
yeah.
understand? When important children are going to be born, they turned
Mm,
out males.
okay.
Yes, few were females, more were males. Jesus Christ was male,
Mm,
according to the Bible, the history that we all read. Samson, male, Samuel, male, Isaac, male,
mm,
Jacob, male, and male everywhere. You understand? So there's
mm,
some. So it is not actually a bad desire, because
mm,
we see that even in the nature of deity and God, we could see that this also played all out.
mm.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is,
It's what it
actually.
is. You may not have seen it this way, but this is the way I've seen it.
Mm, so it's dated as far
Yes.
back
So
as.
it's desire.
Mm,
Jesus Christ, not a female, for instance. You
mm,
understand? Yeah. As bad as it sounds, there's something about some gender.
mm,
So these are some reasons: for spiritual reasons, traditional reasons, leadership reasons, business reasons, and the posterity reasons.
mm,
Most family names are carried by the males. So if you don't
mm,
have a male, it means your family name is going to be extinct. I saw a guy not too long who met socialize, and he told me, "Hey, do you know what my problem is? I'm the only surviving male,
Mm.
and I need to have a meal."
Mm.
These are not in the books, and the powers that control or policy that control things do not recognize this,
Mm.
but it is a burning issue, and then we cannot be silent about it. This is done, this has been going on, and there are a
Mm.
lot of ways to achieve what you want to achieve. It's good to have them both. That's what I say.
I think I could relate to that in certain cultures where you find maybe an only child and then the family tends to marry just to
Mm-hmm.
reproduce
Mm-hmm.
this particular
Mm-hmm.
gender
Mm-hmm.
because they want the family name to be
Exactly.
carried. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think I understand. So we're learning a lot from the aspect you're coming in. That means aside all the reasons you mentioned, political, social, and then there's also a health side of it,
Yes, that's very
which is quite
important.
important.
Very
And then I think a lot of
important.
people don't know that they don't know
Yeah.
there are actually sex-linked
Yeah, sex-linked
diseases. Yeah,
diseases.
I think
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
people don't know that. They
That's
only
true.
see the social aspect
That's true.
of this. So I think it's a good thing that you all are listening to this because for me, I don't know. I just heard of it like just
And
now.
and knowing what I know now,
Mm,
if I was going to have kids,
mm.
you know, again,
Or more?
or more, that's the word, man. I'm going to be very intentional about everything.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't like leaving things to chance
Anymore. Maybe you left it to
anymore.
chance.
I was just thinking about this, that my parent didn't do sex selection. I'm just a product of chance,
They did trial and error, and you're
trial and
here.
error, and I'm just here, man. But knowing what I
Mm,
know, and
mm.
man, I don't think I'm going to sit and watch things just happen.
Mm. I think aside, like coming from what you just explained right
Mhm,
now, I think a lot of people would have this question. Okay, if I opt for sex selection
mhm,
and I have this agenda,
mm.
how is it people that might be traced into this?
Oh, sure,
Um,
sure, sure, sure.
mhm,
Yeah, because you see, a child is a combination of both male and female.
mm,
I look like I have the height of my dad. My mom, I think I have the shape of her nose or something. So
okay.
I guess that's what you're talking about.
Mm,
So a child takes a trait from both or
of the
supplies
gametes.
the gametes. That's where we
Okay.
are right now in the world. So
Yeah.
from whoever donates the
Mm,
gamete, the child takes the
mm,
trait, and
mm,
also by extrapolation
mm.
from whoever is a carrier of the pregnancy. This is a
Okay.
deep one. We're not going into it. I
Mm.
beg your pardon.
That's right. That's right, sir. So, with your wealth of experience, you've
Yeah.
had over 17 years in the field,
Yes.
right? So, what do you think is the success rate for this particular medical intervention?
Okay, now it depends on what medical intervention you're talking about.
Okay. Okay.
You know, before now they say if a woman have sex this direction
Mm,
with legs raised up,
uh,
or in the morning, at night, or
mm,
in February,
uh,
August, or November, she could
okay.
have a particular gender.
Okay.
Those are not
Those are
reliable.
meats. Those
They're
are just
just
meats.
myths.
Yeah.
It works for some people and it
Mm,
doesn't work for a lot other people.
mm,
You know, the aspect of sex selection that gives assurance
mm.
is IVF
Okay.
with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. As I speak to you right now, it is not what is openly talked about in Europe,
Okay.
yeah, and in so many other parts of the countries.
Mm.
It's not openly talked about, but they all know it and they do it more than what we do in this part of the world.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, in Africa or in Nigeria, we talk a lot about it because
Mm,
people demand for this a
mm,
lot, except that a good number of people who demand for it may not have the funds
mm.
to go
For
through with
it.
it.
Mm.
So IVF with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis guarantees
Oh,
99.9999%. This
wow.
is just a little short of saying 100%
Wow.
of the gender you are, you desire, or you
Oh,
opt for,
okay.
if this procedure is done.
Mm,
And when pregnancy happen, you could have an IVF and pregnancy doesn't happen. The same thing, you could do pre-implantation genetic diagnosis
mm,
and the pregnancy does not happen. What pre-implantation genetic diagnosis does for you is to guarantee the selection of what you want,
okay.
the gender you want, and the health of the gender you're looking at.
Okay.
That's it. Look at the gender, the degree of abnormalities, and then you make a selection of what works, the gender that is desired, and you insert in. You transfer into the uterus of the woman. And if pregnancy happens, it is the gender that was transferred.
Oh.
Yes, that would, yeah, you see, because a diagnosis is made already. You know it is a male
Okay.
from the embryo state
Okay.
before selection is made, before you pick the embryo to transfer into the uterine cavity. So if pregnancy happens, that's what you're going to see. So there's no guessing in
Okay.
it, just that it is pretty expensive.
Expensive.
You understand?
Some might
So
not
all other
afford.
things that they talk about, meet a woman after she has ovulated, trigger ovulation, yeah, it can improve the chance, but they are never reliable. They're not 100%. They can all fail. You understand? But pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, it's an advanced IVF. It sees all of that. Select the healthy baby, select the gender you want. Even if you want them mixed, male and female, you
Wow.
select them, and then you can now deposit into the uterine cavity. And that guarantees the gender you want. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's mind blowing actually.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would know about the pre-genetic testing. I think a lot are just coming. I've seen other live sessions regarding the pre-genetic testing. It's not just for sex selection, it can be done for other reasons,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of other reasons. Sickle
Okay.
cell abnormalities. You want to
Okay.
eliminate or avoid sickle cell babies.
Okay.
Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis can be done. You want to avoid syndromic babies,
Okay.
recurrent IVF failure that you're not very sure. You want to also do pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, because when you do that, like I have some result I'm looking at right now on my decks. Uh, some of them have maybe trisomy 18, some have trisomy 13, some have a lot of abnormalities. So it means they may be blastocysts, but yet they are abnormal
Abnormal.
blastocysts,
Okay.
and then it tells you this is euploid. Euploid means normal embryos, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
So this is the best to select. So we're looking at all these results, and these are the kind of things that happen. So you see what. So if hormones are okay and you have babies, selected pre-implantation genetic diagnosed babies, then chance of having pregnancy is very high. And so long as the pregnancy happens, you're likely going to get what you want.
No.
So that
Okay.
is the most assured way of doing
Of getting sex
the sex
selection.
selection.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's only through IVF and pre-genetic testing.
Pre-implantation
Pre-implantation.
genetic
Okay.
diagnosis and testing.
Okay. So I've seen something about embryo freezing. As
Yeah.
after these embryos have been selected, is it possible to freeze them?
Yes, of course, it's possible to freeze them. We have a couple that we did a gender selection.
Okay.
You know, by the way, there are several couples, so you don't even know what I'm talking about. So
You
yeah,
might
there
not
are
really know
couples
exactly. Yeah.
who had a good number of females, for instance, a good number of females.
Wow.
You know, a
Okay.
good number of females. And then they want to have males. And then she came. We did pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, and we got about 7 normal males.
Wow.
Yeah,
7.
7 normal males.
Wow.
And of course there were females. They were females, so they were not interested in the females
You give 'em.
because they've a lot of pretty females.
Okay.
So we transferred 2. And then for some reasons, no pregnancy occurred.
Oh.
You understand? Then we prepared her again and transferred more, and then she got pregnant.
Wow.
Yes, I speak with you right now. She's pregnant with multiple gestation, and they're all males.
Wow.
You understand? They're all males. So why I'm saying is that we froze them.
Okay.
The babies were frozen, the embryos were frozen, and then we transfer them when they want them transferred. And so you can see with one pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, you've generated or created embryos that can be used at any time. The ones that are left over and are healthy could be frozen and used some other time. So yes, they can be frozen.
Wow, that's a huge breakthrough in the
And
medical
then, of
field,
course, and
actually.
then you don't
Mm,
have to pay this huge amount of money
mm.
to do it over again. So it's
Oh,
just
okay.
like now having a frozen embryo transfer.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. That's very good. I think it's a good breakthrough. I think we're growing in the field gradually.
definitely.
All right. So,
Yeah.
with all of this said, are there potential risks to this gender selection? Are there any risks or limitations in gender selection?
Oh, well, I don't think there's any risk.
Okay.
The risk is just that the money is big.
Okay, that's just the downside of it. It's quite expensive.
For me, you see, I don't think except I'm not, maybe I'm not answering the question the way you want
Mm,
it,
mm,
but there's no risk associated with
mm,
this. There's no
mm,
risk associated. You have what you want, and
mm,
you're able to select healthy embryos to transfer
mm,
into the uterine cavity, and then the woman has a better chance of succeeding.
yeah,
Because in addition to selecting the gender, you select healthy embryos.
mm,
Because IVF procedure, the regular IVF procedure does not look at the genetic content or
mm.
constituent of the embryos.
Oh,
And that is the reasons for failed IVF treatment cycle.
oh,
PGD is not done for for most embryos because the cost is too huge. The most failed IVF treatment cycle to a large extent is because of yes. When you do PGD for embryos, for instance, you now find out that
mm.
some couples who you think have 10 good embryos have.
Oh, wow.
So it is an advancement that we wish would
Mm,
be applied to IVF across board, but it's
mm,
impossible to do that.
wow.
It's impossible to do that. So I don't see any risk if I understand your question
Mm,
properly. Yeah, it just helped the good selection and help the
mm,
couples to desire to have what they want and
mm.
all of that.
Okay. So don't you think sex selection is more pushing onto being gender bias?
Oh well, it may look like gender bias,
Mm,
but to be frank with you, if you ask some cultural guys
mm,
what they want, they tell you we just want this gender,
mm,
you know. But you and I know that a house, looking at the word gender balancing now, looking at a family is better off, in my opinion, when you have male and females.
mm,
Gender selection or sex selection, I don't it's not being biased. For me, I think it is to balance the society. The females are necessary, the males are also necessary. They all have socio-economic, political, spiritual benefits or advantages. So the gender selection comes in when the benefit is against gender. Someone is a king. It's not all society that would allow a Queen Elizabeth.
that's true.
Yeah, it's not all society that will allow a Queen
That's
Elizabeth.
true. Mm,
You know, and that is why we've not seen so many female monarchy.
mm,
You understand? So the world is programmed in certain ways,
mm,
and one gender tends to be favored when it gets to certain positions in the society. So I don't see it as being gender bias.
mm,
I see it as just balancing the gender. So whichever way you look at it, you need the females to give birth to the males.
mm,
And you need the males to be in the position in society where they need to be.
mm.
Yes. When we're talking about is it gender, what's the social word we use now? Is it equity and all of that?
Gender
Gender
inequality.
equity, gender inequality or something.
Inequality.
Yeah, we all
Mm,
like that.
mm.
The women should be equal to the man. I support
But
that.
can they really be?
Oh well, left for those who want to debate that to debate. But we support that.
Mm,
We were born by females,
mm,
and we respect them.
mm,
And some of them are doing better than male in society.
mm, yeah.
My wife, for instance, is doing better than a lot of males in the society.
Mm,
So I'm proud of her.
mm.
You understand? So I'm proud of so many ladies. I've been taught and trained by ladies in
Wow.
this profession. in different level in this profession. So women doing great things in the world. You understand? So we're just talking of balancing here, because the reason for the balancing here, in my opinion, is that we have a lot of females than males
Mm.
right now in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, a lot of females than males, and the reason is this: the Y arm of the chromosomes of the males, which is what determines whether a male is born or a female is born, is undergoing a lot of attrition.
Oh.
A lot of characteristics on the Y chromosomes are being deleted,
Oh.
genetically.
Wow.
And we're looking at the future, for instance, where there will be no males,
Wow.
possible extinction of the male gender, if nothing is done to help with this situation. And so you see, most times females are born more than males. More of male gender babies are aborted because of the genetic abnormality associated with the Y chromosome. And so if a couple comes to me, for instance, to do gender balancing, I don't look at the petty things I have just mentioned. The political reasons, spiritual reasons, cultural reasons, business, and ego reasons. The continuity of the male gender itself. There's a big study right now in Kent University. Papers have been released that shows the future of male, of man. Let me use the word mankind means a male now in the male gender. This character keeps deleting, and then we get to a point where it becomes difficult to achieve a male baby. And that's where the world is going. And so for me, gender selection for this reason, perfect. Get the healthy male and go ahead. We do gender selection. We look at the genetic component of the male. There are some on my table, for instance, that all the males that were gotten were abnormal.
Wow.
All they did PGD, but all the males in the PGD were abnormal. What does this mean? It means that there is a problem with the male forming sperm. Yeah, that's what it means.
Wow.
And then all the females, about 5, normal. I
Wow.
say, okay. And that's why you see a lot of men having sex with 5. And they give birth to females. Go to a lot of
Wow.
places, born, they say a bouncing baby boy. I was like, okay, now what's going on here? And they
Yeah.
say a female is born, everybody goes quiet. This will happen in the society, at least in the society I live in. So what bothers me more is the fact that looking into the future, we're going to have less and less male being born and more female being born. And then if you read the Bible the way I do, although yeah, I read the Bible with the eye of a scientist,
Okay.
and I interpret the Bible in a scientific manner. There's somewhere in the Bible, I can't remember the exact chapter or the book now. Maybe it's the book of Isaiah.
Maybe the
For
viewers
those,
can help us check.
for those who understand, maybe the book of Isaiah. I'm not very sure. Where it says 7 women will get married to, will be looking for a man to get
To
married
one
to.
man. Yeah.
That is a ratio of 7 to 1.
7 to 1. Yeah.
Why is that going to happen?
Mm.
We're seeing it from this scientific perspective.
Men are
That
going
for the
extinct.
future, men are getting extinct. More men get accidents, hazard, involving risky behavior, and they die because of all this hazard. Then genetically, men are weak. Chromosome is also weak already. I know CRISPR is coming. CRISPR may help us fix that. Or we do some genetic treatment to begin to reverse the abnormality with the Y chromosome. So, but we're getting to a future where we have a lot of a lot of females. And then it even become more important to do male sex selection.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just what it is. So I told you, when I read the Bible, I read it with the eye of science. And when people say whatever they want to do, I look at it from the picture of my scientific knowledge.
Okay.
And I understand it from procreation point of view. So whichever you look at it, just men. Today we have the house, the Igbos coming from major selection, major gender selection, and it's even the females that request for the I'm telling you the truth. Males request, but often it is the females who request for the male for the male for male sex selection,
Wow.
because it's the male that protects them. The way I see it, you
Okay.
understand? So that's where my worries is. Genetically, the Y chromosome is getting bad.
Wow.
More males are aborted. More normal females are born. You could see house of all males, but you have houses of all female more than houses where you have all male. So some men have female dominant sperms because the Y chromosome is abnormal.
Wow. Wow.
So it's tough.
It's actually an interesting session.
Oh
So,
yeah.
viewers, aside the explanation to this, hope you're understanding that there's a scientific way to understand the Bible. Maybe after this session, you can also apply it to reading your
I,
Bible.
I
So, you
will.
can also get the scientific aspect of the Bible. It could help actually. So that's on a lighter note. But then I think a lot of us would have not understood this.
Mhm.
And then I think a lot of people have had recurrent miscarriages because
Mm.
of this particular
Oh
reason.
yep.
But then because they've not gone further to
Mhm.
check, they just leave it to nature and feel,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, this is just the reason.
If we
Mm,
put our mind to think
mm,
everything in about procreation.
mm,
I'm a reproductive biologist, so I talk only procreation. I
mm,
can't talk engineering now because
mm,
I know nothing about engineering.
mm,
So why do you think somebody has all females?
mm,
Why? There is a reason for that. It's not a chance
mm.
thing. It's not God that made it. God has a lot of things, interesting things to do than staying and be determining the gender
Then
of babies.
genders.
When he's interested, he
Mm,
says it.
mm,
You understand? And it
mm,
just happens. So,
mm,
but there's always a reason for everything.
mm,
When a man has all males, for
mm,
instance, there is a reason why that happened, and it's genetic reasons.
mm,
Some of these are genetic accidents or
mm,
genetic abnormality that turns out to be helpful.
mm,
So those are just all the things we're looking at here. But if there is something that the world would take out from this talk we're having now,
mm,
is that the male gender is at risk, and we're looking at a future where there may be either a drastic reduction in the population of males
mm,
or even an extinction.
mm. Oh.
Yeah, that's it.
So, now relating it to IVF particularly, for people that have had recurrent miscarriages
Oh
and then
yeah.
failed IVFs, now for the genetic testing, then
Oh yes, this is
uh,
standard thing done in places where assisted reproduction is practiced,
okay,
where you have the facility and the means to doing everything. When you
okay,
have recurrent failures, for instance, or you have history of genetic diseases,
mm,
you could do advanced IVF,
okay,
pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, so we could understand why.
mm,
So we could just know that the embryos are a lot, maybe the embryos are abnormal because of
mm,
gene combination.
mm,
And of course, going into the future, for instance,
mm,
where CRISPR comes
mm.
into real play, we could use CRISPR to determine anything we want to determine about the
Oh,
humans.
wow,
You
mm,
heard about women who took out their
mm,
breasts
mm,
because of their parents have abnormal breast, I mean, cancer of the breast.
cancer of the
Cancer
breast.
is a genetic abnormality to a
Mm,
large extent, okay?
mm,
So you could profile an embryo from these couples who
mm,
have histories of cancer, for instance,
mm,
or any disease condition that is not healthy.
mm.
And using CRISPR, you could cut out the abnormal gene
Wow,
from the genome
wow.
and replace it with a healthy gene from an external source, and then you could have a future of the gender you want, the health kind of life you want,
Mm,
or the kind of
mm,
uh, physical or genetic endowment you want to be able to
mm,
have, and all of that. So that's where the future goes for reproduction.
mm,
The first guy who did that in China, in association with from the United States, he was in prison, but he was
mm.
freed after like 3.5 years, not to be infected by HIV,
Wow.
making them by IVF using the
CRISPR.
CRISPR.
Wow.
And CRISPR has been gaining a lot of. Why do I have to go into this one? Just follower. You know,
Okay. Mm.
CRISPR has been making a lot of waves.
Wow.
So with CRISPR, you can actually change a lot. You want to change about the humans,
Mm.
going down to the gene of the babies. You can take out any abnormal gene and replace with a healthy gene. and then you could have what you want. So,
Mm.
including the gender.
Mm. So basic whole misconception people have about IVF, then
Mhm.
I think in general, because IVF gives you abnormal babies,
Ah,
it's
no,
possible
no, no.
babies are not going to be
And
normal.
you constantly hear me
Mm,
say in any opportunity, I mean, an opportunity I
mm,
have to talk, I
mm.
say IVF babies have tendency to be more normal
Yeah.
than I was conceived spontaneously.
Mm.
You understand? There's a lot of things about me I don't even desire. Yes, that's to be frank with you. I don't- I need to
Being an IVF
oh
baby.
yeah, genetically modified, yes, because
Mm, yeah, that's true.
you know, baby is being born without any gene.
Mm,
You understand? So gene editing is just perfect.
mm,
And it should be welcome. Just of course, I know that there should be control, there should be
mm,
ethics. It shouldn't be a toy. I mean, in the hands of
mm,
some loose cannon, who could do
mm,
anything with it. But it has a lot of benefits. So
mm,
IVF babies are not abnormal.
mm.
You know, they could be abnormal just like any other baby if there's no gene editing done and
Mm.
all of that. But
Okay.
if gene editing is added to it, they are superhumans.
Wow, superhumans.
Superhumans.
So, are there any ethical aspects of sex selection, especially in the sub-Saharan African, with medical and for non-medical reasons? Do we have such?
Now, I would say there are ethical aspects of sex selection in
Mm.
the Western world,
Okay.
in the Asia, in
Mm.
Eurasia. I just
Okay.
mentioned to you that in India, for instance,
Mm.
during my early days in medical practice,
Mm.
we're not allowed to tell the gender of a
Oh,
baby,
baby.
and then we're not also allowed to do anything to twerk the gender of a baby.
Mm.
Anybody caught doing that is going to face a jail term or
Mm.
pay some huge financial penalties.
Mm.
The same in Europe. They don't
Okay.
mention it. You
Mm.
understand? Because it's an ethics guiding it. But in sub-Saharan Africa, we're still battling our demons. Yeah. And
Mm.
we've not had time to
Mm.
even talk about
Mm.
the health of our population, let alone
Mm.
the aesthetic aspect of assisted reproduction technology. The
Mm.
bills are sitting everywhere without attention,
Mm.
and so we are looking at those now. For those of us who practice in this part of the world, for instance, just apply the European Society, because most
Mm.
of us of the European Society of Human
Mm.
Reproduction and
Okay.
Embryology and
Mm.
American Society of Reproductive Medicine.
Oh.
So we work with the ethics of these places
Mm.
and to um, try to adapt it to our own environment, knowing that
Mm.
the peculiarity of the sub-Saharan Africa. So I
Mm.
guess sub-Saharan Africa will have a lot of catch-ups to do.
Mm. We
But
do actually.
I
Mm.
appreciate the fact that there needs to be and they need to be ethics quick. It's like Lagos states of Nigeria,
Mm.
where you have a good legislation done on assisted reproduction technology, the
Oh,
do's and the
wow.
don'ts, and the boundaries,
Okay.
and then the
Mm.
law applies if you go out of
Oh,
boundaries.
wow.
We hope that happens in some other part of the country,
Okay. Mm.
but that's where we are right now. But
Wow.
gradually we'll catch it.
Mm. So, like I've learned from this. I can tell you've learned a lot regarding how why it is important this. So I appreciate that we're having a forum like this
Mhm.
to educate people,
Mhm.
especially not because of the social or cultural, traditional or political reasons, but then for medical reasons. But then I think shouldn't there be more publicity about this topic regarding the health side? Because I think a lot of people have zero knowledge.
Yeah,
They
that's
have
true.
they have about it, sex linked diseases. I think there should be something dedicated
Mhm.
like towards this. So is there room in apps hospital that creates this forum for people on this sex linked diseases?
Well, there is a town
Okay.
that is done to talk about some issues like this, but that's once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think anything is done like that in a large scale to
Mm,
get people involved. I mean, get people aware.
mm,
And so one of the ways is this one we're online right now,
mm,
having this kind of talk. And I'm sure some people will just take advantage of our talk to understand what is
Mm.
this really is.
Wow. Okay. So at Abs Hospital, we can get sex selection 100%.
Yes, please.
Oh,
101%.
101.
Hundred
So
and
we've
one
had a
percent.
lot of success with this.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
yes, yes,
Wow.
yes,
I
yes.
think we're
With
growing then, I
pre-implantation
think.
genetic diagnosis,
Mm,
not just for the for gender selection,
but for
yeah, but
other.
for other disease, especially the sickle cell abnormalities.
Okay.
Yes, we do
Wow.
all of that.
So, viewers, in case you want to opt for gender selection, please run down to Apps Hospital, or you can reach out to them on their website. We have WhatsApp numbers. You can reach out. You can have consultations. They're ready. You're 247 available, right? They can call you any
Oh,
time of the day.
sure, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you just heard it from Dr. Kenneth himself. You can call him any time
Oh,
of the
not
day.
me.
The numbers displayed,
The
right?
call center.
Okay, so you can call them, ask your questions, and then it is available at Apps Hospital. You can get counseling on it. It is 100% guaranteed. You heard it from him, not me.
When pregnancy happens, okay.
When
Hmm.
pregnancy happens. So it's been an amazing session today, I can tell you. Thank you very much for the session, Dr. Karen.
We could
Like I
talk
said
more and
from the
more.
start, yeah, I said it from the start. It's always a cruise having him on set. I know you would agree with me because he just gave us a little bit of his scientific Bible review. So in case you have questions regarding that, you could send a message. He could answer you regarding. But then if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp lines. I can assure you that there are people that are readily available to answer your questions. Thank you very much for joining us on this session. It has been amazing having you. Thank you for always sticking to these sessions. And I can assure you we have more and more and more and more cooking up for you. So see you again, same time, same station next week. Thank you very much.